Welcome to Accreditation Made Easy, the podcast that takes the stress out of accreditation. I'm your host, Areaka Jewell, and in each episode, we'll deliver actionable tips, expert insights, and practical strategies to help streamline the process, and of course, make your work life a little easier. Now, whether you're tackling policies, preparing for assessments, or just looking for ways to stay ahead, we've got you covered. Let's simplify accreditation, one step at a time.
Hey friends, before we jump into today's topic, I want to take a second to talk about what this podcast is and what it is not. Okay, we all know there is no shortage of information out there these days, especially when it comes to accreditation, standards, or even your own agency policies. But here's what I've learned. Too much information without any filter is just going to lead to overload. So in each episode, I want to do more than just tell you what to do. I want to give you my point of view, my POV, so to speak. I want to share the things that I've learned, where I see people get stuck, and real-life nuances I've seen play out across dozens, honestly, hundreds, of agencies. Now, don't worry if you're someone who just wants the facts and the steps, I still got you covered. The companion document for every episode is still going to be linked in the show notes, and it has everything you need to know to follow along or take action later. Sound good? All right, let's get into it. I am Areaka Jewell, host of the Accreditation Made Easy podcast, and today's topic is hands down the most common question I get asked, and that is, how do I give assessors access to my PowerDMS assessment without giving them access to everything? Now, on the flip side of that, this is also the number one thing I have to help accreditation managers fix on day one of the assessment when I show up as the assessor, because I either can't see what I'm supposed to see to review, or I see way too much, like every policy in the agency or an inbox with items asking me to sign off on things or training assignments that somehow made it onto my dashboard. Not only is that overwhelming, it creates confusion, it wastes time, and in some cases it might even impact your review. Now, we don't want that. So let's make sure that we're setting up your assessors for success. And here's how to do it the right way, or my POV way. Step 1, you're going to add each assessor as a new user. Now, I know this sounds basic, but it starts here. You're going to create a new user account for each assessor. Fill in the minimum required fields like name, email, username, and then hit save. Little side note here, if you're not sure about the login method to use, don't stress. I have another document in my Content Hub called Assessor Login Options, and I'm going to do an episode on it next week, and we'll dig into it, so stay tuned. All right, to recap, step 1 is to add the assessor as a new user. Step 2, remove them from your agency's default group. This is a big one. While you're on the Manage profile, go to the Membership tab for that user and remove them from groups like All Users or anything else that gives broad access. Why? Because being in those groups could expose them to documents, to policies, or notifications that have absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with their role as an assessor. We want to keep it clean. All right, step 3. Create a dedicated group for assessors. You want to create a new group, name it whatever makes sense to you, whether it's assessors, mock team, reviewers, whatever. I personally recommend using something generic like assessors, and I'll tell you why a little bit later that comes into play. Now, this is how you're going to manage access all at once, rather than setting permissions individually for each person. Sound good? All right, let's move on. Step 4, add your assessors to that group. Just like it sounds, go to the Members tab of that new group you just created and add each of the assessors. Now that they're going to be managed all together, it's going to make life so much easier. Step 5, go to the root of your assessment. This means clicking on whatever you named it, and you're going to go to the Assignment tab of the assessment. Click on Add New User and add the assessor group. Set the role to Accreditation Manager, and in the Responsibility field, choose Observe, and then hit Save. What this will do is it gives them observe rights to see whatever documents or whatever proofs, policies that you put in there for them to see. This is what gives them rights to see it. Next step, step 6, you're going to add another assignment for that same group. Do the same thing again, but this time set the role to Assessor, either mock or final, whichever applies. And then their responsibility is Participate, and then hit Save. This gives your assessors the ability to navigate and evaluate the assessment without editing or uploading anything directly. Now, this is where that generic assessor group comes into play. So if it's something like assessors, you put your mock assessors in there when they come, take them out when they leave. When your formal assessors get assigned, you put them in that same group, you tweak the assignment to say that they're formal assessors versus mock assessors, but then everything else is set. It makes things so much easier. Okay, quick side note here. If there's more than just you uploading proofs, like if you have a team and you're utilizing the team member role for uploading, you'll also need to give your assessor group observe rights to that role too. Otherwise, they won't be able to see the attachments that your team uploaded. All right, last thing I want to touch on, if you've seen some old instructions floating around about how to do this, no, you no longer have to assign access to the standards manual or to your assessment or to the documents folder, whatever. You don't have to do those separately. PowerDMS has since updated how access works, and those extra steps are just outdated. They're just not necessary. So stick to the assignment and the rules within the assessment, and you'll be good. All right, let's recap. You're going to add new assessors for each assessor. You're going to remove them from any default groups. You're going to create and assign a clean assessor group, and then give them just enough access, not too little, not too much. The goal here is clarity, not confusion. We want assessors to see what they need to see and nothing that they don't. And when you get this part right, you set the tone for a smooth, professional, well-organized assessment. That's what we all want. Now, if you want to grab a full checklist of these steps and everything we just talked about, I'll put a link to the companion document in the show notes. All right, that's it for today's episode. Short and sweet, but super, super important. And remember, I'll be back next week with a follow-up episode on assessor login options. So stay tuned for that if you're not sure about how to structure login. All right, until next time, friends, let's keep making accreditation easier, one step at a time.